How money is created. Some may be astonished to hear that there is no consensus on this topic, even among professional economists, central bankers, and politicians. Keep watching to find out 2 ways money is created and how it affects the economy and the public. Number 1. Money created by the government. When the government needs additional money, it asks a central bank or the treasury to print it. Then, in a bank or mint, an image of a human face is stamped onto a piece of paper or metal, transforming it into currency. Specifically, the government entrusts the US Mint, the central bank, or the FED, with this responsibility, although ultimately, the government retains power. There are 2 common types of physical currency: paper bills and metal coins. In many economies, less than 10% of the money supply consists of this real cash money. This currency is printed to fulfill private banking obligations. Banks must ensure that they have sufficient funds on hand to cover withdrawal requests from cash machines. For instance, if we look at the cost to print a $10 bill, we find that it comes to about 3 cents. This means that the profit from printing a $10 bill is about $9.97. In the end, the government will collect $9.97 more in taxes. So why don't governments just keep printing money this way, since they generate a nice profit from it and could even minimize the amount of taxation on the public? Well, politicians are the primary reason why governments do not do this. There would be a serious conflict of interest if the politician in charge of the office could print money whenever they wanted. There would be pressure to keep producing money to fund military campaigns or fulfill election campaign promises. Theoretically, this could lead to the complete collapse of the currency due to the huge devaluation that would result. The more the money supply, the less valuable the currency becomes. This means that everything becomes more expensive, which is called inflation. Inflation is the gradual decline in purchasing power of a currency, and unchecked inflation renders currency useless. Examples of countries with out-of-control inflation in recent years include Argentina, Zimbabwe, and Venezuela. Money can be viewed as a proxy for value. Gold was used as a standard of money for many centuries. Gold served as something akin to a physical anchor, ensuring that both the money supply and governments remained stable. In the early 1970s, the US dollar was disconnected from the gold standard. Its value since has become increasingly volatile. And because the US dollar has served as a reserve currency for virtually every other currency in the world, all currencies suffer increasingly variability. Even though politicians are not supposed to be able to have any influence in the process of creating new money, you know that it is nevertheless still happening. Number 2. Private banks and debt-based money. The private banking sector is responsible for the majority of today's money creation. Because much of the world's currency is created digitally by banks in industrialized economies, most of it is privately held. In response to numerous early bank runs, financial institutions successfully lobbied for the creation of digital currency. A bank run occurs when many depositors attempt to withdraw their funds at the same time, but the financial institution actually don't have enough money to fund it. There were calls for a change in the law to let banks make up for the shortage of deposits with the creation of digital debt, though the concept of using debt as money dates back much further than this. It is through this mechanism that governments have essentially contracted out the production of digital currency. Banks around the world owe a great deal to the innovations pioneered in England. The Promissory Notes Act was established by the British government in the early 1700s. This contract has been modernized into a digital form, and today it is simply known as debt. Banks then officially recognize the usage of these debt notes as currency. Ever since this moment, banks can make and receive loans, effectively printing money to lend out for interest. As you'll see, these ancient promissory notes, now called debt, provide the foundation upon which the current global economy rests. Anytime a bank lends you money, they are effectively creating new money because of the banking license they hold. They achieve this by employing 2 sets of books called dual entry accounting. For instance, if you borrow $250,000 to renovate a home, the bank creates a debt account and you are assigned the responsibility to pay back that debt plus interest. The homeowner can use this newly created $250,000 to make purchases for the house renovation. This new money now enters the general economy. A loan from a bank does not use money taken from one of their customers' accounts. In this example, the bank did not use its own funds. They are literally creating fresh money out of thin air. The money is converted into digital form and made available for spending with a simple keystroke on a computer. However, the real winners here are the banks, which charge interest on this newly created currency. They generate a profit in this way. When you pay off the loan, the debt and the funds simply cancel each other out and disappear, back to nothing. But the bank keeps the interest it earned. The greatest instruments for generating this virtual currency are the real estate and property markets. The reason for this is that this method of producing debt has been deemed by banks to be the safest, while yet providing the most profit potential. The bank can simply take possession of your home if you are unable to make loan payments. US government financing is managed by the Federal Reserve System, the FED. It's perhaps the single most powerful financial organization on the planet. Managing the total outstanding supply of US dollars, the FED is responsible for creating or destroying billions of dollars every day. Still interested on how money is created? Well, then keep watching. Now you know all about how debt is created, let's talk about deposits. When you put money in the bank, you give up your claim to it. The bank now can do what they want with it. If you deposit $1,000 in the bank will retain 10% of your money in reserve and lend out the rest of it to other customers. Those other customers can then deposit that 90% into a different bank, who will again keep 10% in reserve and lend out 90%. The term for this is fractional reserve banking. The money is sent elsewhere, and the bank now owes you your money. Your deposit, as it appears to you, is now simply a record of the bank's debt to you. With the $1,000 opening deposit and a 10% reserve requirement, a total of $10,000 can circulate in the economy. However, all that is being distributed is a record of the money it owes you. That's how things operated up until early 2020, when reserve requirement was reduced to 0%. Therefore, banks can now produce a limitless amount of money with zero reserves. And this is only the beginning. Banks essentially gamble your money by investing it in risky financial instruments like derivatives and securities. They act in this way because they want higher profits. These products are essentially just wagers on whether the price of an asset will rise or decline. But nobody really knows how much money is at stake, since banks are dealing with so many derivatives, often stacked on top of each other with leverage compounding factors. The derivatives market is estimated to be worth over $1,000 trillion. That is 15 zeros. This is about 10 times the size of the world economy. Everyone goes into more debt during times of prosperity. This refers to borrowing money from financial institutions for the purpose of purchasing goods and services that the borrower would otherwise be unable to afford. Too much of this inevitably leads to mass financial ruin. As a result, the banks stop making loans. The amount of loan defaults rise, and the economy contracts. This has been happening for generations, but something catastrophic occurred in 2008 that no one saw coming. Banks had grown so enormous, complex, and essential to the money supply by 2008 that many governments had to utilize central banks to save them from insolvency. The term "too big to fail" was coined from this. Keep in mind that nearly all currency is created by banks as debt. There is a risk of the entire global financial system collapsing if this is not repaid. The economy was clinically dead, but it has been kept barely alive ever since. So now, due to the extreme market alterations brought on by a decade of historically low interest rates, the situation has only worsened. These were temporary benefits at the expense of permanent damage. When private banks lose money on risky wagers, the central banks bail them out with their bottomless coffers. But who really pays for it all? Well, it is us, the diligent, hard-working tax-paying citizens who fund governments through our taxes. So really, the governments do not truly support their citizens. Rather, it is the opposite. We support them. The two primary means through which governments acquire revenue are taxation and international trade. When governments employ central bank loans to bail out private banks for hazardous behavior, the governments are left with the debt, which will eventually have to be paid back by the people. There is still plenty more to talk about, so you can find out more in our other knowledge pilot videos. If you want to find out about the most economically dangerous method of creating money and how it affects us all, be sure to stay tuned and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.